Hey everybody, it's Shelly Hoffman again, and Steve and I have moved to Mercer Park because just like I said, in the years, how many years have you been here, Steve?
8 years.
8 years. In the 8 years that he's been here, I had asked Steve to give me a list of what he and his department have accomplished, and I could not believe. I think my response actually was, "Wow!" I couldn't believe how much you guys have done. Um, so now that we're sitting in Mercer Park, Steve, tell us a little bit more about what this park has been updated and changed in the last 8 years.
Sure. This park is a little more popular than Community Park and gets more traffic into it, primarily, I think, because of its location. Both it's closer to the village center as well as it just has such beautiful access for sitting adjacent to the water. And I think a lot of people enjoy that. So a couple of things that we've done here is to try to make the water more accessible to people. A number of years ago, we had a project where we built what we called a boardwalk, and it's obviously not a boardwalk, but a concrete sidewalk. It runs along the waterfront down near the parking lot. And that was a nice project because one of the things that it did was it brought a handicapped accessibility to the waterfront in the form of a fishing spot. So that was a very nice project, I thought. So now there's a curbed area that jets out toward the water a little bit and provides very accessible opportunity for those with disabilities to have an opportunity to fish. And in addition to that, we've always had a dock here for short-term docking, but we've also added kayak launches here. We mentioned there was kayak launches in Community Park, and we have kayak launches here in Mercer Park as well. And one of the features of the kayak launch here is that it has a particular manner in which to get into your kayak that is suitable for those with disabilities. Well, you might see there's a little bit of a theme, and the theme obviously is this is a park that we have tried to make available to those who might have some physical disabilities that prevent them from getting out and enjoying other parks. And another feature of that is we have a particular picnic area that has a handicapped accessible picnic table. So it has an extension on it for those who might be wheelchair bound to get into. And we've tried to make the cooker available to those who may be in a wheelchair or in a power scooter. So we've been trying to do that throughout the park. Another thing we've done to bring people closer to the waters, we've always had this sidewalk that brings you up to the gazebo and into the playground area and the pavilion here in the park. But 2 years ago, we put a sidewalk that runs right along the waterfront. And that makes it very accessible for those who want to walk and access some of our sitting areas. We have benches along the water here. So those are projects that we've worked on in the last couple of years. We also have a gazebo and a pavilion here that are old. They've been here for many years, but we've done some maintenance. About 7 years ago, we did a project in the pavilion, which put a new roof on it, made some repairs, painted it, put a new concrete floor in it, and provided some additional cooking opportunities there to it. So we put a new cooker there and a concrete walk that brings you up to the cooker. So Mercer Park is a great place to come. We've made some nice improvements here, and I think people have enjoyed coming to the park a little bit more in the last few years than they had previously.
Yeah. And I mentioned when we were over at Community Park about some of the events that I know that happen here, and then and also the way that the park gets utilized. There's the basketball courts, there's the swings, there's just, you said, the gazebo, and it's nice. But one thing that we talked about when we walked along the water is, do you see more people kayaking and stuff now that you put the kayak launchers in?
I think we've definitely seen an increase in the use of both the waterfront as a access into the water, as well as just a place to come and enjoy the water. The kayak launches bring a lot of people to the parks now. We know that because we see vehicles. I'm looking right now. I see a vehicle with a roof rack. I don't see them kayaking, but they could be out of our view. I would expect that that's someone who's come down to launch some kayaks. And we know that on the weekends we do it. I've seen it myself. You come down, and both of these parks have quite a few people who are using the launches for kayak accessibility to the water.
And also right across from Mercer Park, you have Paper Mill Island.
Paper Mill Island, it's just a great feature of the village. Paper Mill Island comes from the Dan O'Hara era of when he was mayor of the village, and Dan had a vision for turning what was at the time an industrial facility into a park. And I think many people thought, how could you be able to do that? Dan worked with Joel Plumley of Plumley Engineering They developed a plan. They did a lot of environmental cleanup and created what I consider to be the very best music venue in the county. Better than the amphitheater in the sense that while it's not as large and it's certainly not as visible, when an event on Paper Mill Island is really a truly wonderful event because you're truly surrounded by water. You have great visibility of the water, and it's a nice amphitheater, and it's a very nice green space to enjoy music or other events that are held there this year. Obviously, this year has been, our unfortunate year of not being able to hold events there. But in previous years when we've had, they've been very well attended to the point where when some promoters stopped having some events there, we had public outcry, people saying, we really want to get back to having some more events. And the village responded by trying to get some more events. And in the last 2 years, previous 2 years, we have. Unfortunately, this year, while we did have a nice schedule of events anticipated, unfortunately, we'll have to wait and see if we can turn them all around and get back to it next year.
I know in talking to some other people, they did say, it's just postponed, but we'll see. The nice thing is we did, churches weren't able to be in person. What do you call it? Gym classes like Zumba and stuff. So there were 2 events, like Church on the Island happened on Paper Mill. And then also there was a Zumba class, which our mayor went down and did not participate from what I understand, but at least was there in spirit. So, again, it's a huge outdoor venue that, is available for us here in the Baldwinsville area.
It is. And many people don't realize that it is a public park available to you to walk onto any time. In some sense, it doesn't look like that because you're walking up the roadway that leads to it, and it seems as though you're almost trespassing on canal property. But the public should be aware that it's not, that is a public road. You can walk on it. It's not accessible by vehicle, but you can park out in front of the Red Mill Inn. That's a public parking lot. And walk onto Paper Mill Island to sit and read, to throw a frisbee, or to use the park as you would any other park as a public space. And many people don't realize that that's the case, but certainly you feel free to. And bicycle traffic onto the park is certainly accessible.
Yeah. It's not part of the park, but another project that you had worked on in the list that you gave me were the lights on the bridge. I guess there used to be lights and then there weren't lights for a while, something like that. But they're beautiful.
Yeah. There were lights that came in, I don't know how long ago, a number of years ago, but they aged out. They just got so they no longer function properly, and we needed to remove them, and we did. They just weren't, there were 4 lights, and I don't think, but one of them was working. And I think because of some interest in people who would talk to Mayor Clark, he said, what can we do to get new lights? And we put the new lights up, I think, about 3 years ago, and they're well received. People do like them. They do look nice.
They do.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about events on Paper Mill Island, when you're walking, because a lot of people would get dinner in the village and then walk over to Paper Mill Island, you're walking past those lights, it kind of gets you in the mood. And there's daytime events as well, but family events. But I know from my standpoint, looking at the lights, or just driving over the lights at night. So we are going to go to the Baldwinsville Center or Square, right?
Yes, sure.
But is there anything else here in Mercer Park?
Well, not right here in Mercer Park, but around the area we've done a number of things. There is just on Marble Street, we did a very nice project about, I'm going to say 6 years ago, to widen Marble Street, to add sidewalks on it, granite curbing. We relocated some of the decorative street lights were there, and that has really transformed Marble Street into a much nicer neighborhood than it was. Very nice. We added there was always parking at the end of Marble Street, but we increased that parking by about 30%. When we did that, we put a nice guardrail up and added some decorative lights. So that was a very nice project. And then coupled with that, we put a sheet pile wall in down at the waterfront to provide boating docking availability on what I would call the downstream side of the lock. So if a boat is coming from Onondaga Lake or somewhere on the downstream side of Lock 24, if they want to come visit the village, come into our restaurant and bar district, they can do it without locking through. We have nice docking facility there. It was slow in coming up after we first built it. I was a little disappointed. It was quite an investment. And for the first year, we didn't see much traffic there. But boy, has it really caught on since. And I think if you go on there on a weekend now, there's times where I've looked and there's not any availability. The dock's full.
And going back to the events at Paper Mill Island, I know people that come in on their boats and they just dock and they can listen to the music or whatever's happening, or park and then come on the island itself and participate.
Yeah.
So I mentioned
Yeah,
that.
it makes real nice.
Okay.
We did mention in Community Park the terrible effect of the emerald ash borer and the effect that it has on our trees. And if you visit Mercer Park, you will see that a number of trees that have no leaf out this year. And unfortunately, we're losing a lot of trees in this park as well. And I know that the village is going to continue with a tree planting program here in the park to maintain nice trees
And
in
you know
the
what, just
future.
on screen, I just want to point out that's one of the ash tree. There's somebody filming for me. Thank you, Lauren. And she just put her camera on one of the ash trees, which is a dead tree. So if you come to Mercer Park and you look, right, Steve, if it doesn't have any leaves, it's typically going to be one of those.
Yeah, it's going to be an ash tree that's been infected by the ash borer, and it's either dead or dying, and we're going to be removing those shortly, either this year or next, and then a replacement program will be very important to maintain the park. Because realize these trees weren't planted 2 or 3 years ago. These are trees that were planted with someone who had the foresight of wanting to have a park with nice tree cover, 30, 40, and even farther than that back. So we want to do it now to preserve the park as a nice feature for people many years to come.
Yep. Okay, so we are going to wrap up this session, but we will be back live in probably less than 10 minutes in one more spot here in Baldwinsville, where Steve continues to tell us, what has happened, what his changes, what improvements he's helped been a part of here in Baldwinsville in the last 8 years. So we will see you in a bit.
Nice.